Hero and Leander, by Christopher Marlowe. On Hellespont, guilty of true love's blood, in view in opposite two cities stood, sea borderers, disjoined by Neptune's might, the one Abydos, the other Sestos' height. At Sestos Hero dwelt, Hero the fair, whom young Apollo courted for her hair, and offered as a dower his burning throne, where she could sit for men to gaze upon. The outside of her garments were of lawn, the lining purple silk, with gilt stars drawn, her wide sleeves green, and bordered with a grove, where Venus in her naked glory strove to please the careless and disdainful eyes of proud Adonis that before her lies. Her kirtle blue, whereon was many a stain, made with the blood of wretched lovers slain. Upon her head she wear a myrtle wreath, from whence her veil reached to the ground beneath. Her veil was artificial flowers and leaves, whose workmanship both man and beast deceives. Many would praise the sweet smell as she passed, when 'twas the odor which her breath forth cast. And therefore honeybees have sought in vain, and beat from thence, have lighted there again. About her neck hung chains of pebble stone, which lightened by her neck, like diamonds shone. She wear no gloves, for neither sun nor wind would burn or parch her hands, but to her mind, or warm or cool them, for they took delight to play upon those hands, they were so white. Buskins of shells, all silvered, used she, and branched with blushing coral to the knee, where sparrows perched, of hollow pearl and gold, such as the world would wonder to behold. Those with sweet water oft her handmaid fills, which as she went, would chirrup through the bills. Some say, for her the fairest Cupid pinned, and looking in her face was stricken blind. But this is true, so like was one the other, as he imagined Hero was his mother, and oftentimes into her bosom flew, about her naked neck his bare arms threw, and laid his childish head upon her breast, and with still panting rock there took his rest. So lovely fair was Hero, Venus's none, as nature wept, thinking she was undone, because she took more from her than she left, and of such wondrous beauty her bereft. Therefore, in sign her treasure suffered wrack, since Hero's time hath half the world been black. Amorous Leander, beautiful and young, whose tragedy divine Muses sung, dwelt at Abydos, since him dwelt there none, for whom succeeding times make greater moan. His dangling tresses that were never shorn, had they been cut, and unto Colchos born, would have allured the venturous youth of Greece to hazard more than for the golden fleece. Fair Cynthia wished his arms might be her sphere. Grief makes her pale, because she moves not there. His body was as straight as Circe's wand. Jove might have sipped out nectar from his hand, even as delicious meat is to the taste. So was his neck in touching, and Sir Pat, the white of Pelops' shoulder, I could tell ye, how smooth his breast was, and how white his belly, and whose immortal fingers did imprint that heavenly path with many a curious dint that runs along his back. But my rude pen can hardly blazon forth the loves of men, much less of powerful gods. Let it suffice that my slack muse sings of Leander's eyes, those orient cheeks and lips, exceeding his, that leapt into the water for a kiss of his own shadow, and, despising many, died ere he could enjoy the love of any. Had wild Hippolytus Leander seen, enamored of his beauty had he been, his presence made the rudest peasant melt, that in the vast uplandish country dwelt. The barbarous Thracian soldier, moved with naught, was moved with him, and for his favor sought. Some swore he was a maid in man's attire, for in his looks were all that men desire. A pleasant smiling cheek, a speaking eye, a brow for love to banquet royally, and such as knew he was a man, would say, Leander, thou art made for amorous play. Why art thou not in love, and loved of all? Though thou be fair, yet be not thine own thrall. The men of wealthy Sestos every year, for his sake whom their goddess held so dear, rose-cheeked Adonis, kept a solemn feast. Thither resorted many a wandering guest, to meet their loves, such as had none at all. Came lovers home from this great festival, for every street, like to a firmament, glistered with breathing stars, who, where they went, frighted the melancholy earth, which deemed eternal heaven to burn, for so it seemed, as if another Phaeton had got the guidance of the sun's rich chariot, but far above the loveliest hero shined, and stole away th enchanted gazer's mind. For like sea nymphs in vagueling harmony, so was her beauty to the standers by, nor that night wandering, pale and watery star, when yawning dragons draw her thurling car, from Latmu's mount up to the gloomy sky, where, crowned with blazing light and majesty, she proudly sits, moreover rules the flood, than she the hearts of those that near her stood, even as when gaudy nymphs pursue the chase, wretched Ixion's shaggy-footed race, incensed with savage heat, gallop amain, from steep pine-bearing mountains to the plain. So ran the people forth to gaze upon her, and all that viewed her were enamored on her, and as in fury of a dreadful fight, their fellows being slain or put to flight, poor soldiers stand with fear of death dead strucken, so at her presence all surprised and tooken, await the sentence of her scornful eyes. He whom she favors lives, the other dies. There might, you see, one sigh, another rage, and some, their violent passions to assuage, compile sharp satires, but, alas, too late, for faithful love will never turn to hate, and many, seeing great princes were denied, pinned as they went, and thinking on her, died. On this feast day occurs day an hour, when hero thorough Sestos, from her tower, to Venus's temple, where unhappily, as after chanked, they did each other spy. So fair a church as this had Venus none. The walls were of discolored jasper stone, wherein was Proteus carved, and overhead a lively vine of green sea agate spread, where by one hand light-headed Bacchus hung, and with the other wine from grapes outwrung. Of crystal shining fair the pavement was. The town of Sestos called it Venus's glass. There might you see the gods in sundry shapes, committing heady riots, incest, rapes. For know, that underneath this radiant flower, was Danae's statue in a brazen tower, Jove slyly stealing from his sister's bed, to dally with Idalian Ganymede, and for his love Europa bellowing loud, and tumbling with a rainbow in a cloud, blood-quaffing Mars heaving the iron net, which limping Vulcan and his Cyclops set, love-kindling fire, to burn such towns as Troy. Sylvanus weeping for the lovely boy, that now is turned into a cypress tree, under whose shade the wood gods loved to be, and in the midst a silver altar stood, their hero, sacrificing turtle's blood, veiled to the ground, veiling her eyelids close, and modestly they opened as she rose. Thence flew love's arrow with a golden head, and thus Leander was enamored. Stone still he stood, and evermore he gazed, till with the fire that from his countenance blazed, relenting hero's gentle heart was strook. Such force and virtue hath an amorous look. It lies not in our power to love or hate, for willingness is overruled by fate. When two are stripped, long ere the course begin, we wish that one should lose, the other win, and one especially do we affect, of 2 gold ingots, like in each respect. The reason no man knows, let it suffice. What we behold is censured by our eyes, where both deliberate, the love is slight. Whoever loved that loved not at first sight.